therapy time in the land of Westview, everyone. And we...
Agatha?
Hold on. Therapy time.
We have a little bit of a curse going on
everyone.
here.
And
Is this part of the Hex world?
what is going on?
Agatha?
Hold on. Therapy
Oh,
time.
yeah, I
We
know
have a
what
little
it
bit
is.
of curse going on here.
I'm almost about to just stop
Is
this
this
and
part
start
of the
the whole
Hex
thing.
world? Oh, it's the chaos magic. I get it.
Hey, you know what? You can't have multiple tabs open on all your computers and then just start playing while the video also starts playing.
I mean, you can, but it's just not what you wanted to.
It's not very professional.
You've proven that it can be done.
Fair point. Where was I? Oh, it's therapy time in the land of Westview, and that means a trip down shitty memory lane. Wanda and her trauma Sherpa, Agnes, aka Agatha, hit all the lowlights of Wanda's life and set the stage for an epic showdown with a fascinating whitey white twist. All on this week's penultimate episode of WandaVision. Welcome to the MCU Pod, a companion podcast to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm your host, Grant Davis. This week, my co-host, Mike Moody Garcia, is he's trapped outside the bubble with, I guess, whatever's going on with Wu and with Monica. They're just missing in action, and he is as well this week. But that's okay. We got two great guests on the episode this week. We're excited to be joined once again by our good friend, world-renowned film and pop culture critic and comics expert aficionado. I'm not sure which we would prefer. Martin Thomas of doubletoasted.com.
Hey, everybody.
And we are joined for the first time by our good buddy and our legal representative, also film critic, Elliott Fontanette of One of Us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Elliott, thank you for joining. I know that you've heard episodes in the past, and
all of them.
There was something I wanted to address, which was if anyone was listening last week, this was right after we all went through a really shitty week here in Texas. I don't know if the rest of the country heard about this, but it got cold here, rather cold, and
it was a bit chilly.
Everything was awful and frozen. And what happened was midway through our episode, we had Jason Murphy and Randy Lander on here with me. We were talking, and there's this bang, 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 bang on my door. And I'm like, well, this is a live show. I don't want to go answer. Bang, 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 bang. Wouldn't stop. My wife goes and answers the door. And it's our old neighbor lady from across the street. And her pipes had burst and water was going everywhere. And she's like, come fix my pipes.
What?
Like not an ask, just like a come do it.
Oh, yeah. It was not a, hey, could you come fix my pipes? It was a, hey, come fix my pipes. So I have to, hey, guys, can you just take over the show? I run outside and I run across the street and I go turn off the water for her. And she's like, all right, well, what about my water? What do I do? I was like, well, you're going to have to call a plumber. I don't know how to fix this stuff. She goes, all right, well, I'm going to need some water tomorrow. All right, I'll bring some water to you and give me a plumber's number. All right. All right, bye. She just, so I run back over here. I'm like, sorry, guys, I missed some of that episode.
Are you the Hayward of your street? Like just
putting out
Well,
fire.
you know what? Yeah, I bet when Christmas time rolls around, you're going to get a mysterious ham.
Oh, no. Is it going to be a good ham or just a mysterious one?
Well, it'll just be, you won't know where it came from, but it'll be there on your front stoop.
that's called trash, sir.
And then some weeks later, she'll be like, how'd you like the ham? And you're like, oh, that was you? We threw it. I mean, it was delicious. Yes.
I had food poisoning for a week. Tonight
it was fine once we picked the ants off of it.
Oh,
but go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, tonight we are streaming the pod live on YouTube, talking WandaVision Episode 8. And yes, we want to remind you that there are going to be spoilers. We're going to dive into this with some light speculation and theorizing, but we're also going to just tell you everything that happened. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it first. And then you can come watch this episode later because it's going to stay up on YouTube. Before we dive into that, I just wanted to take a second to
remind you guys that if you want to hear the audio version of this podcast, we do put out an audio version as well. You can go there, subscribe. You can give us an iTunes, or is it not even? I don't think it's just called. I think it's Apple Podcasts now. You can give us an Apple Podcast review, 5-star. That helps us a lot. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can even go to patreon.com/MCU Pod and support this little project if you want. This isn't the end of us with WandaVision. We're going to carry on talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier and What If and Loki. I think just announced for, what was it, July 15th? So
when's Hawkeye?
When is Hawkeye? I think
End of the year.
Next year, right? Is
End
that
of this year?
Ooh, that'll be interesting. That should be a fun one. I wonder if it's just going to be a murder parade. He's just mercilessly killing people like that. Ronan.
I was thinking about that, and these Avengers, man, they I mean this sincerely. They just sort of just need a therapist on staff. Because Hawkeye went and killed a bunch of people in Japan to deal with his shit, and it's like, I'm glad you're working on it, but maybe don't murder people to work on it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but he's murdering murderers, and we always complain that Batman never kills the biggest murderer in town because think of how many people he could save if he did.
Yeah, Dexter didn't go to a therapist, and he killed murderers. Tony Soprano did go to a therapist, and he kept killing people. So I don't know.
Yeah, nothing stops that.
I want to say before we dive into this week's episode, if you guys if you're watching live and you want to comment and catch our eye in the comments, type POD at the front of your comments, and we'll be able to look over and see that. Easy way for us to check everything. And I can pull in the comments on here. People are saying Loki is June 11th, and MODOK is looking good. So
MODOK.
Have you seen the animated MODOK with Patton Oswalt?
No.
Oh, it looks like it's gonna be pretty good too.
It's like sort of Robot Chicken style.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be a weird take.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and dive into this week's episode. Previously on is the 8th episode of WandaVision, written by Laura Donney and directed once again by Matt Shakman. The synopsis, courtesy of IMDb for this episode, is Wanda embarks on a troubling journey, revisiting her past for insight into her present and future. I guess that worked. Again, we no longer do hot takes on here, or as they eventually became, hot quakes. Now it's time for Snap Judgments.
That's even matched up. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you. Elliott, it's your first time on the show. Love to hear your thoughts overall on the season itself, as well as this episode in particular.
I actually grew up on classic TV, like, I Love Lucy, not so much Dick Van Dyke, like Bewitched was the show I really watched a lot, and like Family Ties and all that. Like, it's been a walk down memory lane, and I've really enjoyed it. It's just been so nice to see these characters fleshed out, because when you have that big ensemble, you can only really get hints of the character in the movies. Like, so it's like, oh, I'm getting really deep into this, and it makes me like some of the movies more in retrospect. Like, I really liked Infinity War, but there's so much more weight in what Wanda and Vision are going through watching it now, going back. Because you're like, shit, this is even sadder. Yay.
It's such a good testament to like great storytelling when it enriches other media.
Yeah, and that actually ties into my snap judgment for this episode. This episode, and I mean this as a compliment, it didn't feel so much like an episode of WandaVision as it felt like, hey, let's, for the better, go back and recontextualize a lot of the MCU. Because it goes through and cleans up a lot of mess. Like, I enjoy Age of Ultron, but that movie, it feels like a train station. Because it's trying to do so much. It's almost coming apart at the seams. And this movie goes through and goes, especially in like the beginning, this episode, it's like, okay, let's clean this up a little bit. Let's give it some backstory. And I just think it does a really good job of that. And it really is just setting up, which is, I think the next episode is probably going to be like an hour and a half, if I had to guess. It's just going to be a straight movie. Like this feels like a complete setup to the next one.
I heard that Feige said we were supposed to get the last 3 episodes as hour-long episodes. Last week's was like 26 minutes, and this one was 47 minutes.
Well,
Yeah.
he said he said he wanted the series to be 6 hours, and so people have been extrapolating based on like how many episodes we have left. And if you're using that measure, we have an hour and 25 minutes, something like that left. So I think it's going to be like a big action-packed thing in next week.
Okay, fair. Martin, what were you thinking?
Yeah, to kind of piggyback on what Elliott said before I had a chance to say it. I also, like, unlike most people, I really, really liked Age of Ultron up until right before WandaVision, because I like went back and rewatched it to get ready for this, and it was the first time I sat there going like, yes, this movie's really not all that good. I see why people didn't dig it so much. Like everything I loved is in the early part. It's them hanging out.
Yes.
And then all the other stuff, I was like, yeah, it's touching on things, but it doesn't have enough follow through. And now suddenly with this episode of WandaVision, you're really getting that follow through, like to back up and go, all right, here's all the stuff that had like where this movie just told it to you in a couple of sentences. Here's the rest of the whole book. And it's like, all right, now, and Marvel's done this a lot. When you go back and look at Endgame. Endgame does things that make you go, I never thought I'd give Thor: The Dark World a second thought, but now you've kind of legitimized it. It does have a place in this storyline.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on here. And yeah, because it'd be easy up until now to go like, well, this is fine and all. I love superheroes, but Wanda's not a character I could really care about. But now with this, it does bring it home. And I love the fact that her favorite episode of TV is one of the best episodes of Dick Van Dyke. One of the most memorable episodes.
Do you guys remember this one?
I
do.
I actually went back and watched it today.
Oh,
because I had never seen it, and it's really funny.
It was very funny, and as a kid, it was a very disturbing episode.
Mm-hmm.
For my part, I think that in watching all of these MCU films, they're getting smarter and smarter about how they portray good and evil, villainry, and motivations. And it's not so simple and clear cut. I thought one of the greatest decisions in Infinity War was Thanos' story. And, he's in a way the hero. We're all kind of braced for him to be the villain, but he gets his victory in the end. For the rest of us, it feels like, oh no, he lost, but that was his story almost.
Sure.
And the what was it? Civil War, getting to see Baron Zemo's kind of perspective, and that it was much more of a psychological battle that it was waging instead of just like beat him up in the streets or just monster battles. Mm-hmm. Here, what we're getting is a lot of inner conflict for Wanda, and as we go and explore the trauma that she goes through, it not only enriches her character, but it shows that Marvel is aware of the emotional weight of the storylines that they tell, and that's not something to dismiss, but actually something to embrace and delve further into. I think especially now, more and more people are realizing the value of mental health, of therapy. Now that we're going through the pandemic and trauma, like we just went through here in Texas with the freezing temperatures and just like not knowing how to keep your kids warm, shit like that.
Action heroes never pause to deal with trauma.
Right.
It's almost not a thing. I mean, they're chasing somebody down and their best friend is killed next to them, and the most they emote is, I'll get revenge for you. But for the most part, it's just like, well, I got to keep going. It's like nobody ever stops to just break down. How is that not a thing?
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, like one of the things that I love about media is that whether people who make the media mean it or not, it's a landmark of the time we're in. And the time these days is so much more aware of mental health. Like this episode was just going through, and I am not a therapist, and so it seemed like cognitive behavioral, where it's like you need to go back, face each of your traumas, recontextualize them, so that you can deal with it, because otherwise you're never going to get past it. Like, and it was amazing to watch that in a superhero show.
Yeah, I put the question out to our viewing audience to get their takes as well on their snap judgments on this episode. So I wanted to read a few of those to you. G Miller 47 says, "Today I learned Agnes was the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher we never knew we needed." So,
yeah.
James Worm says, "Agatha isn't anyone's definition of good, but still may not really be bad, just self-motivated." And I was about to do a video this week, earlier this week, just talking about, like, do we have Agatha straight? Are we just assuming she's a villain? Kind of like with Hayward.
Well, with the end of last week's episode, the whole musical number just pretty much said, "Oh, she's bad. She's the real villain of this," which is always like, okay. I mean, I'll accept it if you say it, but these movies and shows have been fairly faithful to the spirit of the comics, and Agatha was never that. And then this episode seems to start with her as a bad witch, but the longer it goes on, the more you're like, well, is she here to help? I'm not sure where she's coming from.
Well, she's not even. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Grant.
No. I agree. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. Watching it, I don't think she's even here to help. She's like a moth to a flame. She just wants to know how Wanda's doing this. Like, she's like, I just want to learn, but she comes from a place of distrust. She doesn't want to go and say, "Hey, teach me." She's just trying to glean and figure it out through deception. And she finally just breaks. She's like, "I'm tired of going through these fucking sitcoms. I don't want to go through New Girl." Okay, just tell me.
But I do think there is something to the idea that, how she is kind of processing all this trauma. Here, let me just jump to this next one. That psycho reviewer says, "Wanda got promoted into having a cool name to go along with her cool powers. Great twist at the very end that they do say you're the Scarlet Witch," and that has this, it felt kind of Green Lantern to me. Like,
yes.
Different color lantern.
Everybody's magic has a different color.
Mm-hmm. It's a rainbow spectrum of colors and color sets and powers here.
If you're going to have something that sounds admittedly a little silly like Scarlet Witch, you need to make an entire show to sell it. You can't just drop that shit. You gotta sell it.
And then Will Morris says, "All my theories are deader than Tony."
Oh,
too soon.
Oh my God.
Let's say one more. I don't think there's anyone else pulling strings behind the scenes. I think all the major players are revealed, says Ide Loans.
Don't know about that.
I completely agree.
The bunny is
because because we know this has to eventually flow into the next Doctor Strange movie.
Right.
It's got to set that up.
We even get that scene where Agatha yanks a hair and then does the magical binding, just like Doctor Strange does to Thor, right?
Yeah. Ragnarok.
Yeah. I was like, the hair. There's the hair magic again.
And it's that great scene where she's like, "This is basic magic, Wanda. Like, these are runes. Like, how do you not know any of this?"
And she doesn't. Yeah. There's a fascinating with Agatha coming in there. She was under an impression that this is another witch. Like, I'm protecting my realm from other witches, and this is kind of a territorial thing potentially. And this other witch is doing some crazy stuff I've never seen. But then she's realizing, oh wait, you're just untapped power that's channeling this purely through emotion, and you've never done the research. You've never been trained as a witch like I was, and you don't even have the back history. You don't know what runes are and how to kind of wield this power in certain ways. You're just doing this off the cuff. And I think
she's. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. You think what?
That's playing with this idea of whether or not she's a villain or she's coming across as a villain to try and, like, I think she already recognized, like, this person, like Wanda, is traumatized, and I can elicit that trauma, but she's not going to take that from a compassionate friend, or else, because she has friends, she has the Avengers, she could have turned to someone there and had gotten counseling potentially, but she didn't want that. What she needs is someone to push against her, and so I think Agatha is potentially playing that role. She's pushing up against her. She's acting a villain. She's manipulating her with positive reinforcement through Pietro and negative reinforcement through taking her kids that are manifestation and kind of holding them away from her, and then trying to trigger. This is therapy. She's putting her through therapy, and she's triggering her through all this trauma that she went through under the guise of, I want to learn how you do this, but also this is going to be the most constructive for you.
Yeah. Wanda, she's sort of Harry Potter in that she's this powerful magic user who doesn't really know what they're doing.
Just,
you know, and one of the great, sorry,
I just said just untapped power, chaos magic.
And like one of the great things is like the lawyer in me is like thinking about like just the negligence of the Avengers to not have somebody helping her out. But you know, this is set a week after after Endgame, so everybody's dealing with their own shit.
They got their own shit they're dealing with.
Yeah,
I mean, could that be the role that Doctor Strange goes in?
Absolutely.
If she needs a mentor and that isn't going to be Agatha, then maybe it is Doctor Strange. Do you think she's going to end up being the villain in Doctor Strange, and he has to kind of rescue her and in the process become her mentor and teach her how to harness the power?
I don't know if she's big enough to be the villain in Doctor Strange.
She almost took down Thanos. She's like one of the most powerful, right?
Oh, I thought you meant Agatha. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I just meant
no, that's the thing that they always say that she was the only person who could take out Thanos. You know, but he just happened to rewind time.
That Segura Beer says, so my theory is that Agatha is a method actress. Maybe a little bit of a stretch. Okay, so let's jump back to the very beginning of this episode. The Marvel logo goes purple, and we open with a cold open in Salem in 1693, where Agatha is being burned as a witch, but by other witches. She's getting a good, you know, hazing, it seems like, and there she developed some mommy issues, probably because her mom's trying to kill her. But it does seem that she's trying to tap into dark magic, and they're not down with that. Are we to assume that the other witches are good and she's evil? She's a bad witch, or is she a witch who stepped over her bounds against bad witches and killed them?
Well, wouldn't a good witch have knocked them out and gone on about her way as opposed to sucking out their life force?
She did kill the dog too. I don't know. I'm so conflicted on her.
Well, I mean, I think the story wants us to see her in that moment as the bad one. But you know, you got me up on a stake here. And y'all all ganging up on me. If I happen to suck your life force out, that's your fault. That's all I'm saying.
Like Dennis says here in the comments, Agatha told the other witches that her power wasn't under control. A parallel to Wanda not controlling her powers very well.
Yeah.
So maybe this is something of you know, going back into her own past and seeing something in herself and her trauma, what she went through, and trying to mentor Wanda.
Sure.
Potentially.
Good point.
I mean, they can go both ways here.
That's true. The next episode could be all about Agatha trying to help Wanda and going like, girl, you're too much for me. I got to turn you over to the master.
Oh, I mean, there's also going to be Monica with her new power set. And I imagine there's going to be a lot of blue and red and purple lasers being shot about. I'm not sure how all of it's going to shake out. So we learned that Pietro, aka Fietro, was I guess are both characters necromancers? No, I guess Wanda didn't bring Vision back. She kind of manifested him whole cloth.
Mhm.
But I don't know if the Pietro Evan Peters is a reanimated corpse, or if
Well, she said
Well,
necromancy was out.
and didn't she say it was illusions?
illusions, Michael.
See, I really do think it's probably. I think it's just Fox's Pietro. Like, I think she can reach like through multiverse and just like, he's close enough. He's the bargain basement Quicksilver. Come over here. You're he'll feel a kinship to you.
It kind of does a really big monkey wrench in a lot of the theories that this was the introduction to the multiverse, and that there was potentially Wanda pulling in an alternate reality Pietro
Mhm.
into this universe as a
Mhm.
coping mechanism. If this is actually the work of Agatha.
It's the writers are so smart, and I feel like one of the reasons they did that is just to throw everybody off the scent,
Of course.
because they don't want to be like Game of Thrones at the end when it was like, we don't want you to guess our ending, so we'll make the ending really shitty.
We'll do the last thing you ever thought of.
Yeah, this is
Dumb.
like, we don't want you to guess the ending, so we're gonna put something that makes sense in the final story, but it's so meta that you're gonna run with it to give us time to tell our story the way we want to.
Right? Yeah, it's a lot of misdirection, which goes with stage magic. But yeah, look over here at the Evan Peters, and
Mhm.
while we do all this other stuff and stop you from theorizing about the things we're really working on.
But at the same time, I'm gonna be a little bit disappointed because I
Oh no.
prefer Evan Peters' take on Quicksilver. Like, I want him to be the Quicksilver of this universe.
I like Evan Peters a lot, and his take on Quicksilver was fun. The Aaron Taylor Johnson was more accurate.
Yes.
I just want to shout out James Worm, who got my Arrested Development quote I was saying to you guys. Illusions, Michael. Tricks are what whores do for money or cocaine. So we go through 4 doors, and these 4 doors are 4 significant points of trauma for Wanda, and to an extent, they are kind of corresponding a little bit with the commercials that we've been getting throughout this season. The first one is Sokovia, and this is where we get this flashback that really ties together a lot of the entire hex construct of why we're trapped in TV world, and that her father was selling old DVDs of TV shows to try and make money in Sokovia while it's war torn, and they would gather around as a family, and this was a very comforting escapism for her during both that traumatic time and obviously in the current now.
Mhm.
The part where the bomb comes in and explodes, and they're hiding under the bed watching the beeping. After that scene, you have Agatha confront her and say, "Did you put a probability hex on it?" And she's like, "No, I think it just never went off." But it could be that she was not aware that she was already powered. Like,
Yeah.
is this the introduction of mutants?
Yes, it is.
Suggesting right here?
It absolutely. Well, if it's not the introduction of mutants, it's that she has witchcraft in her family lineage.
Exactly.
But it is a thing. One of the fixes it does to Age of Ultron is that rather than these kids were just miracles, the idea that they already had something, which, considering that Pietro's power was super speed, then that wouldn't be in a lineage, so that wouldn't make them mutants, or at least him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I have a theory about that. Like, I think it's that she's just a witch, and maybe she gave Pietro powers, and it's like, if you want your person to stay safe, one of them is, well, just be faster than everything that might hurt you, except for these bullets that should have killed Hawkeye.
You think Hawkeye should have died?
Well, it's clear that Joss Whedon like really wanted to kill Hawkeye. Like he was satiated with Quicksilver.
So with door number 2, we now get to see a bit more of the experimentation that Hydra was doing on Wanda and Pietro, I guess. So maybe Pietro also already had power that it just enhanced. But
because it does seem that everyone they experimented on who didn't have power just died.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They go through and actually say so themselves. They're like, oh well, everyone's dying. Why do we keep kind of fucking? At a certain point, it's
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy's like, "Shut up."
It's like I love the extent of their experiment is, hey, just have them touch it.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Well, I mean, she goes in and she sees this stone, and she has this kind of vision where it breaks apart. I know, Vision.
Stop it! Don't do that.
I didn't mean to.
You're better than that, Grant.
I'm not, but I didn't mean it was inadvertent. But when she sees this, give me another word, apparition. I don't know. It is clearly it's her in the future, dressed as a Sokovian fortune teller in her full Scarlet Witch outfit. And I guess my question is, what is this that she's seeing? Is this her future self? Is this the spirit of the Scarlet Witch that she's being imbued with?
That's that's the thing. What Agatha says to her isn't "you're a Scarlet Witch." She says "you're the Scarlet Witch."
Right.
What it makes you think is an entity of importance, or that comes around ever so often, or God. And what you're saying does make sense, that what she's seeing is, that particular supernatural being that maybe comes inside of her, or that she embodies.
Well,
at the very beginning, when we see Agatha's mom, when they're all just kind of blasting and torturing her, I think there's a scene, and I don't have a screenshot here to pull up to show y'all, but I think there was a scene where you see right at the end, right before her mom gets killed, a crown forming on her mom's head, right?
Yeah.
Was that
yes
similar kind of thing to what we're seeing with this?
It could be an indication like of the deeper lore, that maybe with the witches there are, different classes and different sort of beings that can imbue with you. But thinking about that, Martin, you had a good point about you're the Scarlet Witch. And one thing Kevin Feige does is he likes to take stories and take this piece and twist them up and put them together in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's the Phoenix inhabiting her. Like maybe they've turned the Scarlet Witch into the Phoenix entity.
Right.
Because, there was the M'Kraan crystal with the Phoenix, and they're just like, okay, Mind Stone, you are now imbued as the Scarlet Witch. Maybe they're making more of a Phoenix type of situation.
I'm not shaking my head because I think you're wrong. I'm shaking my head because I don't want that. Enough with the Phoenix. Hey, how many disastrous tries with the Phoenix do we have to have?
I would give Feige a chance.
I'm sure if somebody's going to do it right, it'd be him. But I just soon just leave it alone. Give it a rest.
Do you think that maybe because they've shat the bed so many times with their attempt to tell the Dark Phoenix story, that this could be a better approach with what was great material that they didn't watch though?
Well, see, the thing is, everybody still, despite the two disastrous times they tried to do it, everybody still wants that Phoenix story. Like, you're gonna bring the X-Men in, everybody's a fan, and I mean everybody wants that Scott Summers, Jean Grey love affair that turns tragic with the Phoenix. And every time somebody does it wrong, it's like, okay, great, we gotta wait another 10 years for it to kind of go away, and then somebody else to do it again. So if we could just stop with wait until all the pieces are in a row and set up, that would be infinitely better.
I don't even know if they're going to turn her into the Dark Scarlet Witch. I think it's just the class of Scarlet Witch could just be an entity that she doesn't necessarily have to follow the Dark Phoenix path. She can just It can just be like this is where you're an entity. This is how you're getting the power to create. I mean, she created an Infinity Stone.
Yeah, and this could be, as well tied into the basement and what we saw last week. The Darkhold book is in there, or some other sort of magical book, but most likely probably the Darkhold, right?
And it's got to be the Darkhold.
And if that's the case, it could be that this is some prophesied witch within that that she's aware of, that Agatha's aware of, and this is the physical manifestation, but it's raw, untapped power. And I think this is also very fascinating because I wanted to talk about this guy right here a little bit more with you guys. Hayward is being presented as kind of the government villain.
Sure.
He's Thunderbolt Ross. He's trying to control all these superheroes, and we're so sympathetic. But we've had multiple discussions on this podcast of, is he necessarily a bad guy? From his perspective, you have someone who went and stole all the free will from a whole bunch of people in the town and are leaving them outside freezing and potentially starving, and there's lives being threatened, like thousands of lives in this town, by an unchecked power. You want to take that power out so you can save a bunch of people.
It doesn't make him bad that he wants to do something about that. That not at all. I mean, you can look at it and go like, yeah, from his perspective, that makes sense. If anything, I don't know if it makes him bad, but the fact that you would think that he would take Monica and Jimmy Woo and sit down and well, let's talk this out, as opposed to going, nope, doing it my way. Shut up, leave me alone, arrest these people.
Well, Jimmy Woo was kind of dick to him too. When he was talking, he's like, that's an oversimplification, but sure. And it was just like, dude, in front of my people, what the fuck?
He feels like a guy who got a promotion before he was ready. And so he's really insecure. And he's trying so hard to be Nick Fury. Because Nick Fury could do this shit. And you'd be like, well, of course you want to take Vision apart, blah, blah, blah. And he would bring in Jimmy Woo and he'd talk to Monica. But, Hayward, he's like, I shouldn't even have this job. This should be your job, but you got snapped away. And so he's dealing with insecurity and half of the planet was snapped away and they came back luckily. But hope is not something the government really functions on when you actually regulate, unlike Texas and the power grid. But I don't want to go into that. I realized what I was saying as I was saying it. I was like, damn it.
No, but we got a little bit of a twist, a reveal in how we've been misled in the sequence of events, because there's a little bit of confusion when we're seeing how Wanda understood encountering Vision's body. She goes into Sword through door number 4, and I know I skipped door number 3. We'll go back, but she goes through door number 4 and she finds Vision's disassembled body. Which, he's been dead for 5 years, and you decide the day that Wanda came is the day to finally start really cutting up his body like this?
Sure. Oh, I got the impression he had been dismantled for a while.
Yeah, he was trying to provoke her.
Plus, there's all kinds of forms you got to fill out to requisition this and get permissions, and he's probably licensed. It's Stark technology, and Stark's not even alive. So then, lots of red tape. But most of it's splayed out all over that operating floor.
But not only is this a classic scene from the comics where Wanda encounters the disassembled Vision in the lab, but
damn, his skin suit is right there too.
I know it's kind of
do my man like that.
But at the same time, I now we understand that she didn't leave with his body. She made a new version, whole cloth, and that Hayward still has the body. So the idea that he's angry and just going over there to try and rip that away from her isn't the case. He's trying to tap her power in order to reanimate the one that he already has. So Darcy and Wu and Monica are kind of operating off of of false information that he presented to try and frame this. So yeah, in a way he's bad. I don't really know how to take it.
Well, I mean, I think that's what they want. They want. I think Marvel it's really interesting because this is the first one that's really MCU, like a real MCU TV show, and I think they're trying to tell more nuanced stories in their TV shows than their movies because they have more time. And it's like this. I don't really see a clear villain because like you could say Wanda, you could say Agatha, you could say Hayward was a villain, but they all just really have motivations, whether conscious or unconscious. So it's like, but when all those different motivations come together and they're not seeing eye to eye, then you have all this conflict. And it's just honestly like I was going back and watching like the first 5 episodes. I would go back and watch them again and again. Like they were really fun, like especially the first 2, because it was basically Dick Van Dyke and I Love Lucy and Bewitched.
And
and it's like, but these like I can't really watch them again because they're hard to watch. Because like you're just watching people go off their motivations and make mistakes, not knowing that they're like thinking they're in the right, and it's just going to lead like it's like Vision said in Civil War. It's like that leads to catastrophe. It's like it's just going to go into a big conflict that didn't need to be, but you know he's not dealing like they're all just have their own different little motivations.
Will Morris says Hayward just wants to make a suit of armor around the world. Hayward's secretly the hero. We all
yeah, how'd that work out when Tony Stark tried to do it?
Yeah, it was a great. Yeah.
I mean, all Tony Stark, no, not all he did, but he just created a lot of supervillains along the way.
I mean, you could argue that like that was the reason that Thanos won, because like that so splintered the team that they weren't together to stop him.
Ooh, here's a good point. Nicole Jackson says so they could track Vision because of the decay signature of vibranium going on. So Wanda created both the vibranium and the Mind Stone for him? What's going on?
I think so, yeah.
Is the Vision that's inside the Hex bubble also made of vibranium? Like, was she able to just like fully reconstruct him? Is that what we're learning is the actual extent of her powers? And can he survive outside of the Hex bubble? Didn't look like he could, though.
It did not look that way.
Dennis says, have they telegraphed that Vision from Wanda's body will take over the albino Vision?
I imagine he will.
Will he?
Or they're planning for a big tragic ending where, yeah, Vision can't be alive and everybody has to just feel bad about that.
Yeah, it feels like the end of Star Trek Nemesis, where they killed Data off, but they gave them an out with the alternate android.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they might sort of do that. It's like, hey, he's not Vision, but hey, Shuri downloaded his consciousness, and we never picked up that thread, so we could always just re-download it into him. And there you go, Bob's your Uncle Vision.
You guys ever see the movie Beer Fest?
Yes,
The Broken Lizard guys.
Long time ago.
2006.
I'll admit it's not a great movie, but there's a part where the Farva guy from Super Troopers, his character dies. He drowns in a pool of beer trying to chug a bunch of beer. And then they just go, oh wait, here's his twin brother who looks like him. We'll just bring him on, and how about we just call you by his name and we'll just act like nothing really happened.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes comics loves to do that.
Oh yeah.
And just nothing happened. Let's just move on.
Because the characters have to continue on for 30 plus years. So there's no way to not make it a soap opera at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
So taking a step back to door number 3, the Avengers compound, we were talking a lot about this particular scene in our snap judgments at the beginning of this episode, because this is a scene that really enriches the backstory of certain elements that are going on in, I guess that was Civil War for this particular movie, but it also gives additional context to like Age of Ultron as well. And I thought that, man, I just love the performances of Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen here, but especially what Bettany has to do in playing this kind of pulled back android, but who does have these genuine glimmers of human emotion and compassion, and kind of knows how to play with that. And when he's talking about, you know, what is grief but not love persevering, I felt it. I thought it was a good moment between them.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Yeah, Bettany's a pro.
Yeah,
like-
I just disappeared for a while after A Knight's Tale. I was like, where'd you go, dude?
I tell you, like that scene was so affecting. I felt like there are times, like I remember like the moment I fell in love with my wife before we got married. Like watching that scene, it felt like, oh, this is the moment that she fell in love with Vision. Like when he says that really wise thing and then laughs at the thing falling on Hal,
which was hilarious.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you like my sitcoms and you're really, really wise. Yes.
That is one of the things, right? For the movies, it's they meet, and then we see them, like Vision's showing affection for her, and then the very next movie they've been together as a couple living in Europe for a while. And it's like, there's a whole lot of stuff that went on in between those two things that we never got to see. So this really is a window into that, to where you go, yeah, you're right, Elliot. That's that moment, and you can go like, all right, now I can stitch this together. I'd be happy for you to show me more, but I can really start to believe in it now.
Yeah, there's a log line. You're like, okay, here to here to here to here. I see where you're going.
You know,
by the way, I know it seemed like Bettany disappeared from after A Knight's Tale. But he did some stuff in between. But if you really like him, I would highly recommend Uncle Frank on Amazon.
Okay.
I got reminded as well that he was also in A Beautiful Mind. So.
Yes.
So he had two other things he did.
Well, you know, he was in one of the Da Vinci Code movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mordecai, and he did some kind of sci-fi action biblical thing when he was an angel. So,
Priest.
I don't know. Was it Priest? I can't remember.
Yeah. Martin Thomas, you can check out his reviews of film, television, and pop culture over at doubletoasted.com. He knows this stuff. As evidenced by you just being able to rattle off Paul Bettany's IMDb.
I mean, he has.
I've been a fan since The Knight's Tale.
Yeah. All right. So I think, you know, we have what's her name, Agatha, with the two kids on strings. She's going full manipulative evil, and I gotta say that her outfit with the purple smoke around is kind of rad.
She's a smoke show.
She's a smoke show. But they're gearing up for a showdown, and we don't know, lingering questions wise, we don't know what happened to Monica. Where's Pietro with her, and how's that all shaking out? Because it's one thing for Pietro to kind of pop up on a rando and be like, hey, I can go super fast, so you're nothing to deal with. But Monica also has brand new untapped powers that are going to be a force to reckon with. So it'll be fascinating to see where all of that kind of shakes out. I saw some people talking about how it reminds them of a Master Pandemonium, who has the two little twin babies on his arms when you see Agatha with the two kids on leashes, Wanda's kids out front. So I don't know if they're doing a nod there.
Because I was wondering if she was going to drop the whole thing. It's like, your two kids aren't real, right?
But they don't get that yet. I wonder if they're waiting for another emotional heartbreak next episode.
I think the kids are real. Like my theory is that Agatha wanted the kids to come so that she would have leverage over Wanda. Like that's just my little theory. Like the thing that was so interesting about that scene is that Agatha looks genuinely frightened of Wanda at that point. Like she has all the leverage ostensibly. She's like, "You're the Scarlet Witch. I'm sort of screwed."
Right.
Yeah.
G Miller 47 says, "Can someone please tell me why the witches in the show look like Power Rangers villains?"
Because it's all based on television shows.
There we go.
Are you saying this is Rita from Power Rangers?
I got a Rita vibe.
Okay, fair. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the credit stinger. And before we do this, I just want to say, hey, anyone watching currently, if you do have any questions for us, questions for Martin and Elliott, go ahead and get them in, or comments yourself. Put POD at the front. I'll grab those and we'll go through those at the very end. But last things last, let's go ahead and talk about White Vision popping up here. Here we go. Randy, our buddy Randy, has been popping in and suggesting that he thought there was good potential for them to go this direction, because I guess this also tracks with the comic books a bit. But still, it's cool and it looks great, and it's jarring and kind of creepy with these white hollow eyes that he's got going on here. I guess
It's very Westworld.
Very Westworld, yeah. What are your thoughts on this, and what do you think they're planning on doing with it?
Oh, they're gonna send him in to, knock shit around. And then it'll come down to a showdown between White Vision and fabricated vision. Yeah, and colored vision. and in the end, maybe this vision will be left, and Wanda will be sad because he has no personality whatsoever, and she'll stick a personality in him.
Okay.
Or he'll go off on his own, and that'll be something that gets done much later in a movie or a TV series.
Is there a real Vision anymore? Like, is the one that we're seeing in the Hex bubble, now that we know it's his origins, were completely fabricated by the memory of what Wanda had of him? I guess this is a question of identity. I don't know kind of what to think of this person. Is it just her impression? Is it her her idealization of what Vision was, or is it some manifestation of the Mind Stone again?
I think you've hit it on the head. I think Vision is dead, like straight dead. Now Marvel might try to give you a way to have your cake and eat it too, but at best, I think the Vision inside the Hex is what Wanda thought of as the Vision, not really the Vision.
Okay.
Also consider that the Vision came from Jarvis, and for
Right.
all we know, at Stark Industries, Pepper Potts has the backups somewhere.
And it's a fusion of the two, right? Because there was a part of Vision that was also Ultron.
Yeah.
Well, was it?
Yeah.
Because there was Jarvis, and then the Ultron personality beat up Jarvis, and it took off on its own.
Because the Mind Stone is what they were able to make Ultron off of, because the Mind Stone, in a sense, has its own mind.
Right.
And I thought they were able to kind of extract that, and then it went haywire, but they were able to fuse Vision's personality with it, and they have that whole like thing where the mitosis or whatever the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a little bit confusing to me. I don't know fully how to think of the like one's essence, one's personality, one's soul, I guess.
You don't?
In a synthesoid version. All right. Well, we have some questions here. Comments. Let's go ahead and hit some of these. Dennis says Darcy will probably save the kids in her truck. You think she's gonna roll in, and hit the horn and just like, come on in, kids?
I could see that. Like, that sounds like something they would have Darcy as a character do.
Easy, low stakes for the character.
Yeah, it's like reset everything.
Yeah. Because that'll be interesting if the kids get pulled out of the bubble and are now characters for future development in the world of the MCU, because they already have abilities, and maybe if they're the kids of now mutants, they're mutants themselves. Although again, this is
you say they're the kids of mutants. Okay, their mother is possibly a mutant. Their father is what?
A toaster.
Midichlorians? I don't know.
I mean, on one hand, it was like, okay, their father is an android, not possible. But now we're like, oh, wait, he's not even really an android. He's a made-up android. So how can these kids be real?
Are they inbred?
I mean, I don't want to think about that. That's what I'm just.
Idlones says, is Doctor Strange and Agatha's magic the same? I got the impression Strange's was more harnessing of other dimensions' energy, while Agatha's is more just, classic magic.
Yeah, but it's easy enough to explain that her classic magic is the same thing.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's just that Strange. It's like Agatha's using a program. Strange knows the operating language.
Boom. Right there.
Takako says, can this white vision be the first Sentinel?
That is a good possibility.
Is this going to be hunting mutants? And is Hayward essentially was it Trask?
Yeah.
Or whoever the editor was.
Yeah, but okay. Hayward's he's the head of SWORD, right?
Yeah.
And SWORD's all about extraterrestrial threats.
But not anymore.
Yeah, they changed the S from space to sentient.
Yeah, sentient weapon observation something.
So maybe they're making some deliberate kind of shift in what SWORD means in order to encompass their future vision of incorporating mutants.
Yeah, like I could see the climax being they send White Vision in to like fight for them, and White Vision goes, well, no, I just want to destroy. He goes Ultron, not like full funny Ultron, but he just goes, no, I'm just going to destroy the humans. And now that's the big showdown.
And AI every time, jeez.
Gino says, what do you most hope the show avoids doing as it tries to stick the landing in the finale? I hope that they don't try to wash away what Wanda did to other people. I hope it's not that she was manipulated from the start. I hope that they do take seriously, trauma and pain, and they deal with that respectfully while also kind of honoring that this is a situation in which innocent people were hurt.
Yeah.
See, I feel like they already did that. Like this episode sort of, it said explicitly she started it, and Agatha, it's like it reminds me of like contributory negligence, because you're trying to like separate who's responsible for what. And there are terms in law, there's a proximate cause and the but-for cause. So the proximate cause is what sets the stage for the conditions that make something happen, and the but-for cause is like what actually makes it happen. And so Wanda like set the stage, but if it wasn't for Agatha, she might have come out of it sooner. Like it feels like Agatha's been sort of keeping it going. Yeah. So it gives Wanda a bit of an out, but you know what, Wanda, you still did it. Like, so I think that they're going to avoid that, because that'd be really cheap. But they said it's not your fault.
It's one of those things where sometimes we've had this happen. It seems like it happens with Superman a lot. Mind control, go rogue, do a lot of stuff, then later come out and go like, hey, it wasn't my fault. This guy controlled my mind. But I'm like, yeah, that message is not going to go out to everyone.
Yeah. So
there's going to be a lot of people who are like, no, all I know is what you did to me.
And all I know is you have crazy unchecked powers.
Yes.
which is why it was actually really fascinating when they did Civil War. And I know, Elliott, you often talk about how you were your team Iron Man. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, the thing that was so great about Civil War is Iron Man was right on the subject but wrong on the procedure. Like in terms of, he was right about you got to regulate, but he didn't do it the right way. Whereas Captain America was right about the procedure but wrong about the subject. And if they had just really sat down, which they were trying to do in Germany, and just talked it out, they would have solved that in about 30 minutes and a beer. But they were
possibly.
But the thing that was so smart about it is, Tony had broken up with Pepper. He was on edge already. And then Steve is dealing with his feelings about Bucky and all that stuff going on. So like they can't really reach that because they got their own static going on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it's fascinating that a superhero movie would have everyone in this debate, this moral debate that we really can't solve, and everybody has their point of view on it. Yeah. And they're all legitimate. You're like it's like you said, the bones of what Tony was saying. Yes, that makes sense, and we could probably reach a compromise. But to have the main guy who made most of the trouble, tell me that I'm out of control and you need to tell me what to do, I'm like, no, kiss my ass.
Exactly. It's like sometimes, like Tony was so on edge. Like the best thing Tony could have done in Civil War is take himself out of the equation.
Yes.
Just turn the temperature down, even if that means Captain America gets what he wants momentarily. Take your ass back to the United States. And go to the Senate and lobby for what you can do. You make more change there, but he was like cooking that entire movie. Like he's just like on edge. He's like he's feeling that guilt from Alfred Woodard's character, and he's taking out his own shit on everybody else.
Yeah,
I do know what I'm doing when I push the Civil War button, and I would just like to point out. I know I'm just gonna get that debate going again, but I on the broader...
Didn't you release the Abomination on a city and then the Hulk, and you're telling me that I'm out of control?
Right?
Yeah.
But the fact that it is a movie that can so easily like trigger good, passionate discussion about it. Well done. So well done. I'm just gonna hit a few more here. Nicole Jackson says, will Darcy get powers since she went through the hex? And what will White Vision's powers be since he's powered by the hex? To the first point, I think there was someone else in one of our comments had suggested that Monica's powers came from not just passing through the hex, but when she was enveloped in Wanda's energy and then jettisoned out of the hex. Something about the combination of those was like this imbuing of power, similar to how Wanda herself was imbued with power from the Mind Stone.
I'll do one better. Like my theory is not only that, but that she was exposed to Captain Marvel, who was exposed to the Space Stone, the Tesseract before. So she's been very close to two beings that had two different Infinity Stones. Maybe the interaction of those is what caused her power. So that's why it's unique from everybody else.
Interesting.
And Wanda, she killed the Vision the first time, so there's no reason she couldn't kill the White Vision other than that her not wanting to.
Yeah. No, she could take, like, only person I think really could take Wanda at this point is probably Captain Marvel.
I just kind of want a scene where she's like shaking some spray paint and she's just like, we're just gonna do some touch-ups on Vision and add a little bit of makeup. You look just like the old one. You look great. Some contact lenses in them. That Psycho Reviewer says, in my opinion, for now, Hayward is the big misstep of WandaVision. They seem to be taking the most generic route with him, and I hope I'm wrong.
I feel like this episode they didn't. They veered from that.
Yeah, I don't see it as generic. Like generic is making him the out and out villain. Like that, it's cheap to make him like he's the big bad, big bad government. Like they're just like he's just somebody who, like, we don't know all of his backstory. Like, what if his wife or his children got snapped away, and he actually has the power to stop it in the future? Yeah. So to him, he's like, no extreme is too much if I can stop that. Because before the snap, they had sort of reached a detente and like had let the superheroes sort of do their thing. But if you're telling me that the government's going to be okay with getting their bacon saved by a random group of heroes going through time because of Ant-Man's shitty van, they're not going to be okay with that.
Well, I think we're about to wrap up on this week's discussion. I did want to go around and ask you if, now that we're one episode away, the next episode is the finale, if you have any kind of closing thoughts on what you think they're going to do, or just how you feel about the show. We'll start with you, Elliott.
I can start with how I feel about the show. Like, I think this show it's really, really good. Like, I think the writing is really amazing. I just like what they're doing. It shows them that they're maturing the storyline in their shows and giving them more nuance. And I'm really excited about the ending because I honestly have absolutely no idea how it's going to end. Like, I can project about 3 or 4 different endings right now that are plausible, but I have no idea how it's going to end.
Right.
That's exciting.
What do you think, Martin?
Well, I don't, I mean, I've listed most of the things I thought. Agatha's not so bad. She tries to help Wanda. Showdown with White Vision, and maybe him getting a personality, maybe him not. And it all going over, blending into setting up the next Doctor Strange movie into the madness of the multiverse and all that. Digging the show. Wish it was longer. It's good to have something to look forward to on Fridays now that the Mandalorian's done for now. I did not think Disney could have a good follow-up, at least not quite so soon. This series it spells a lot of hope for all the things they have to come. Because initially paying for Disney Plus was, man, they're going to have all these Marvel shows. Yes, they will. Not until a year after you start paying for this. So it's good to see that they're now delivering on it. I think if you haven't watched this show, it's probably all the better to just watch them all in a row. It is. I mean, I didn't grow up binging shows, so I'm not one for binging. I usually I can watch 3 episodes at a time, and then I notice it's sort of diminishing return sometimes. But this is one where I feel like it works better that way.
Yeah, that's interesting because shows like this are the ones that I adore getting to have week to week. But that is in the context of the world getting it week to week and all of us having this shared water cooler discussion about it.
Sure.
If you're coming to this show after the whole thing's been released, I don't see why you wouldn't binge it. You missed the boat on all the fun conversation that's going on. And you just kind of need to catch on with whatever the next thing is, which is Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up in 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah,
is it?
Yeah.
And just before we end, like, one of the things I like about this format, just as when everything gets released at once, it turns into this weird race. Like, who's gonna watch 16 episodes from 4 p.m. when it gets posted to 6 p.m. to 12 or 2 p.m. the next day, and it's like, that's unenjoyable. Like,
it's not.
It does a disservice to the art that you can't take time to digest each episode and discuss and analyze what they're doing, because when you watch all of it at once, episode 4, who cares how much blood, sweat,
exactly.
The director and everyone put into that one, because it's just in the middle of a story arc.
Yeah, it feels like a big, long, disjointed movie sometimes because you're just watching it. Like, I really have enjoyed, especially during the pandemic, it's been nice to, every Friday or if I'm being real, every Thursday morning at 2 a.m.
Oh,
wow. But look, just some context. I usually work until about 11 or 11:30 at night. So it's not that hard for me to be like, well, I'm gonna stay up and watch some anime until 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Then I'll watch WandaVision and be really sleepy the next day.
Well, another thing is, listen, if you haven't been watching the show and you finally do go all right, it's done, I'm going to watch it, I do not want to hear from another person of, man, this thing was so hyped up and now I just don't get it. It didn't work for me. Good Lord. Yes, this is going to happen when people are on to something and you don't jump on it. Of course, they're going to hype it up because they love it. And nobody is saying how much they love it to your specifications. Either watch it and realizing that, hey, people were really into it at the time and you missed that boat, or just STF you.
Yeah, and it doesn't make you seem smart to not like what everybody else likes.
No.
It's just that doesn't give you a personality. And it's the same thing when we used to go to a bunch of screenings before in the before times, and you would have a bunch of critics in the audience who would really laugh really hard to make sure you know they got that reference.
Mhm.
It's the opposite of that. It's like,
Yes.
no, you can like things, and you can
Yeah.
you can not like things, and let people like things they like.
Yeah, that thing you don't like, nobody asks for your declaration.
Exactly. Like I've actually started when I have an opinion on Facebook, I've actually started being like, absolutely nobody asked me, but
Thank you.
It's like, nobody's waiting for my take.
There's plenty of negativity, and we all should be able to enjoy our happy little bubble of things we like, as long as it doesn't, come at the expense of couple thousand people of Westview. That's what I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love how we've forgotten about that in this entire episode. It's like, oh yeah, they're fine. They're fine.
Quick,
I mean, sure. There's suffering and it's painful, but it's helping Wanda, so it's okay. We know
the most expensive therapy I've ever seen. The cost is insane. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this week on the episode. It was great to see all the comments from everyone coming in, and I think as we're getting more of a rhythm, we're being able to incorporate those a lot more into the discussion, and it's really enriching the conversation. So first and foremost, I just wanted to thank all of you for tuning in live on our YouTube, and recommend to everyone else who hasn't jumped on the bandwagon, go and subscribe, hit that notifications button, and every time we go live, which is going to be 9 p.m. on Fridays, you can join in on the discussion. It's great. And then I want to thank you both. Elliott, thank you so much for joining us. Martin,
thank you.
I know I asked last minute, but also thank you. Thank you both.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's fun.
Elliott, where can people find you?
Do
you want?
I haven't really been like doing podcasts in like 2 years, since we had a baby a few years ago, so I sort of took a break. So I just want to say thank you for giving me a chance to dip my toes back into this. So for now, you can find me using MCU Pod.
Yeah, let me just say,
my Twitter is ITL Elliott.
ITL Elliott. It's going to be in the YouTube show notes, so you can check it out there. And yeah, you're, like I said, you're not rusty. You're great here. Martin, what about you?
You can find me over at doubletoasted.com, which we live stream on Twitch. Also, you can go to doubletoasted.com and join our site there. You can find clips on, shortened clips on YouTube. We live stream 6 out of 7 nights a week. You can find me there 3 nights, usually Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And for, as Grant says, movie reviews, pop culture, current events, reactions on everything. It's a good time. Check it out.
Yeah, I want to, like, the double toasted bites on YouTube are really, really good. Like, it's just like this little bite size, like it's like 7-8 minutes, really funny, get you in and get you out.
It's great.
Oh, yeah, it's great to know. And if you like that, an actual show is about 3, sometimes 3.5 hours long.
It's hanging out with your family and laughing. It's great.
Yeah.
Mike unfortunately wasn't here, but you can follow him at Mike Moody Garcia over on Twitter and on Instagram as well, I believe. You can follow me at Baron Von Grant. You can follow our podcast at MCU Pod. You can go to mcupod.com as well to check it out. And I just want to say once again, we appreciate everyone going on this ride with us on WandaVision. We are very excited for the finale next week. We will be back live at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time here on YouTube. And I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm very excited for this final episode. It might be as long as a Marvel movie. This might be a Marvel movie we're getting.
Marvel movies are close to 3 hours.
Okay. The new one. It's like an Ant-Man movie or whatever. That was like an hour and a half. Thank you all so much, and we will be back next week. Bye.